The Great Leap Forward was a major economic and social campaign led by the Chinese Communist Party from 1958 to 1962. This period of rapid industrialization and collectivization ultimately led to one of the deadliest famines in history, resulting in the deaths of tens of millions of people. The campaign sought to transform China from an agrarian society into a socialist society through rapid industrialization and collectivization. However, the implementation of centralized planning, unrealistic production targets, and the focus on quantity over quality resulted in widespread crop failures and food shortages. The resulting famine devastated the rural population, leading to starvation, malnutrition, and an unprecedented humanitarian crisis. This essay will explore the causes, impact, and lasting effects of the famine during the Great Leap Forward. Causes of the famine. The Great Leap Forward aimed to transform China from an agrarian society into a socialist society through rapid industrialization and collectivization. One of the main causes of the famine was the forced collectivization of agriculture, which led to the consolidation of small farms into large communes. This agricultural policy disrupted traditional farming practices and resulted in decreased agricultural productivity. Additionally, unrealistic production targets set by the government and the inefficient implementation of farming techniques further exacerbated the food shortages. The government's focus on quantity over quality meant that local officials often exaggerated production reports to meet the targets, leading to a distorted view of the actual food supply. This resulted in severe food shortages and widespread starvation, especially in rural areas where food was scarce and people were unable to meet their basic nutritional needs. The mismanagement and misguided policies of the Great Leap Forward drastically increased the vulnerability of the population to famine, contributing to one of the deadliest famines in history. Impact on population. The famine during the Great Leap Forward had a devastating impact on the Chinese population. It is estimated that between 15 to 45 million people died as a result of the famine and related policies. The widespread food shortages and starvation led to malnutrition, weakened immune systems, and increased susceptibility to diseases. Furthermore, the famine disproportionately affected vulnerable populations, such as children, the elderly, and the poor, leading to a staggering loss of life. The lack of food also had long-term effects on the survivors, with many suffering from stunted growth and lasting health issues. The famine not only resulted in a high death toll, but also had a profound impact on the Chinese population's physical and mental well-being for years to come. Additionally, the staggering loss of human capital and potential from the death of millions of people had a lasting impact on the country's development and demographics, shaping China's socio-political landscape for decades. Economic and social consequences. The economic and social consequences of the famine were profound and long-lasting. The agricultural infrastructure and rural communities were severely disrupted, leading to a breakdown in social order and widespread suffering. The famine forced the Chinese government to import large quantities of grain, leading to economic strain and dependence on foreign aid. This reliance on imports created a significant financial burden for the government, impacting its ability to invest in other critical areas such as healthcare and education. Additionally, the social fabric of Chinese society was deeply impacted, with communities grappling not only with the loss of millions of lives, but also with the psychological trauma of the famine. The breakdown in social order led to increased social unrest and a loss of trust in governmental authorities. The long-term effects of the famine included a weakened agricultural sector, persistent poverty in rural areas, and a population scarred by the trauma of widespread starvation and loss. These economic and social consequences continued to shape China's development and societal structure for years to come, making the lasting impact of the famine during the Great Leap Forward undeniable. Legacy of the Great Leap Forward Famine. The Great Leap Forward famine left a lasting legacy on China, both socially and politically. The Chinese government, under the leadership of Mao Zedong, initially covered up the extent of the famine and its impact. However, in the decades that followed, the Chinese government began to acknowledge the scale of the tragedy, leading to a re-evaluation of Mao's policies and the direction of the Chinese Communist Party. The famine also served as a critical turning point in Chinese history, leading to significant reforms in agricultural policies and a shift towards a more open economy. The acknowledgement of the famine's impact prompted the implementation of policies aimed at preventing future tragedies, such as the introduction of agricultural reforms to improve productivity and the opening up of China to foreign investment and trade. These changes marked a significant departure from the policies of the Great Leap Forward, reflecting a deeper recognition of the need for sustainable economic and agricultural practices to prevent widespread famine. Conclusion. In conclusion, the famine during the Great Leap Forward was one of the deadliest in history, with millions of lives lost as a result of government policies and agricultural mismanagement. The impact of the famine reverberated throughout Chinese society, leading to significant changes in both policy and public discourse. The Great Leap Forward famine serves as a stark reminder of the devastating consequences of poorly implemented policies and the importance of prioritizing the well-being of the population. The enduring legacy of the famine has profoundly shaped Chinese history, serving as a critical turning point that prompted the implementation of policies aimed at preventing future tragedies. This period in Chinese history also led to a re-evaluation of Mao Zedong's policies and the direction of the Chinese Communist Party, and ultimately resulted in significant reforms in agricultural policies and a shift towards a more open economy. The acknowledgement of the famine's impact has marked a departure from the policies of the Great Leap Forward, emphasizing the need for sustainable economic and agricultural practices to prevent widespread famine and ensuring that such a tragedy is not repeated in the future.